why don't we get started? Thank you everyone for coming out today, and we wanted to just come down and chat with you all and really see firsthand some of the issues, and also hear what some of the challenges have been, and talk about solutions. I know this has been really hard for the neighborhood. This area gets hard hit every single time, and I know there are still some people who are not back in their homes. And so actually I should say I'm Scott Wiener, have the honor of representing this neighborhood at the Board of Supervisors, and I want to thank Mayor Lee for joining us today. I mentioned this to the mayor, and he immediately said that he wanted to be here to talk with everyone. I also, this is Harlan Kelly, who's the general manager of the Public Utilities Commission, and we also have representation from the city attorney's office here, which handles claims, and we just want to make sure that we know exactly what's going on, and that people have access to whatever resources are available. We want to make sure we're all working together, because we know that this may not be the last time this happens, but there may be heavy rains again, and we want to make sure that we're prepared. So, Mr. Mayor, do you want to say anything?
Well, first of all, happy holidays, everyone, and thank you for inviting us in to talk with you about the challenges that are here. You know, I know there's going to be this legal word claims. You know, we want to get to that and do our best to settle as much as we can, but I think the real reason I'm here is I'm trying to find some long-term solutions. You know, Roger Kim is my climate person here, and we've agreed going forward with our Public Utilities Commission that given the climate that's going on, the environmental climate, we're going to have more rains in the future. We're going to have more water challenges, given the assessment that we have in our environment. So areas like this in the city are going to be challenged even more, and I think we have to come up with long-term solutions so that property owners here don't go through this. You know, we can call this a 10-year storm or a 25-year storm. Kind of in a way, that's kind of what I call DPW speak. When I used to be the head of DPW, which is, it's kind of says, well, you know, it happens in these segments of time, so you're supposed to try to do something in between. But I know you can't do it all on your own. I think there's a real challenge here that the city and the residents and the property owners need to come together for long-term solutions. They're expensive. We have a big water main here. It's combined. We have the elevation flows. We have a freeway that kind of acts almost like a dam, if you will. And so we got to figure this out in a engineering and a infrastructure way in order. And some of it might very well be that we decide that this is not the best place for homes in a certain kind of elevation unless you have designed the property in a way to withstand this water. So I'm open to working with all of you to find that long-term solution. I know we have to go through this immediate damage assessment and recover from that, but I've also got to take a look at the long-term solution. I would like us to kind of elevate ourselves beyond just the immediate things that we have to do, to kind of look at, if you're property owners here, I think you'll want to engage with us in a long-term solution. Am I right?
Absolutely.
And so we need to get to that. We need to have a forum in which that should happen, and we'll do our best to deal with the immediate stuff. But in talking with Supervisor Wiener, I've been here before. I've been here 10 years ago as your DPW director. I already know what you went through. I recall the electrification that occurred with somebody's animal guardian. And so I didn't want that to happen again. That was my immediate worry, was do we have that kind of depth of water that will cause that thing to happen again? And people's got to be safe immediately. So let's go and get this assessment done. Let's make sure our departments are all acting together with you to recover quickly with both yourselves, your insurance, but let's also have a forum that we can talk about solving this once and for all. As you know, I'm kind of an infrastructure mayor, along with our supervisor, and I want to get to that planning and that discussion, because I think we got to solve it for the long term. And also represent to you that we want to do what we can right away to get these things done, get you back to some level of normality. There's going to be more rains. I actually hope there'll be more rains, to be quite candid with you, but not the flooding. Mm-hmm. I want the rains, I want the snowpack, I want that recovery from the drought, but I don't want the flooding impact to happen to you. So let's get to work. I know the residents want to say a few things, and we can hear that as we go through this. I'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, I have a statement. After the flood, I believe DPW or somebody came and they put a bigger sewer down there in the block. It was huge. I live on that block. Is it possible to put another one like in the middle of the block so the water can drain down faster? The manhole covers have little tiny holes. Water can't go in that fast.
So this is Harlan Kelly. Harlan Kelly's the general manager of our public utilities, and he's got his top folks here, and he's a engineer. And I kind of have to rely on him to have the engineering solution. So I think that's a good question.
Maybe you can put another one down there or closer to the end of the block, because that was way in there.
I think the major challenge of our system is that we have a combined system. And so we actually treat sanitary flow, we flush the toilets, and also the storm water that comes off the streets. And as you know, water runs downhill. And so as it comes into these areas, what we've done is we actually put the largest, a 9-foot sewer under here to collect as much water as possible. But one of the challenges that we're facing is that when they built this system a long time ago, back about almost 100 years ago, they built it for a 5-year storm, which is technical for an event that happens every 5 years. There are storms event that happens once in 100 years, where you get a intense amount of rain for a short period of time, and there's no way that you can collect everything at one time. And so the challenge is that we have climate change. I mean, some people don't believe in climate change, but we're in a drought. And the last 3 or 4 years, we had a 25-year storm, an event that happens every 25 years, the intensity of rain, and then I think December 3rd was a 25-year storm, and December 11th was a 10-year storm. So the challenge is that these are no longer 5-year storms. I mean, they're more frequent. And so one of the things that we are working on is we have our sewer system improvement program. We're looking at these areas because we got to move the water so that to reduce the flooding. But I would say, no matter what we do in the solution, when you get a storm event of a significant magnitude, areas like this, low-lying areas, will be flooded. There's nothing we can do to prevent any flooding. And I think what we're trying to do is reduce the frequency in which this floods, because every time it rains, you don't want your house to be flooded. But if you're going to get a 100-year storm, there's going to be a lot of areas that flood. So one of the things that we are willing to work with the communities, not only your community, we got 17th and Folsom have a similar situation, and other areas, and we're going to work with those communities. And what we may have to do is look at areas where when we get enormous amount of water, instead of flooding people's homes, we need to identify areas and low-lying areas to kind of capture as much water as we can. And so those are the solutions that we're looking at currently.
My name is Blaine Batchelor. I live here at 99 Roddick. I want to say, first of all, thank you for sending out people to help with the cleanup. We do appreciate that a lot. But there are some very serious concerns among the homeowners and residents here in this area. This happened in 2004, as we understand. We were told it would not happen again. I wasn't living here at the time, but apparently there was some sort of a memo within the San Francisco Water Department about some sewer fixing that was going to be happening. That was from 2008. Apparently none of that happened. I mean, the manhole covers out here were shooting water. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the video that some of our residents took, I mean, it was like a river of water down here. And that was not even the storm. That was a week prior to the storm, the big storm. And then it happened again a week later. So I want to know, first of all, what's going to happen with our property values here, number one. And number two, specifically, what solutions can we do? I mean, can we put in a new sewer here? Can we raise the homes up? I mean, what are we talking about here? Because this is a major, major problem.
You know, I think what we need to do is, I'm going to ask PUC to gather all of the memos for the last 10 years. So when we sit down again, we should have the benefit of everything that was done in the past, what was said, because I would, if I was DPW director 10 years ago, almost I was, I would have never said this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't happen, because we knew it was going to happen. You're in a lower level. This area will have more water than other areas when it rains, like at December 3rd and December 11th. So I want to be very careful to bring everybody back to the same level of information that we all have to share, because I did hear some people say, I thought you had built a pump and it was supposed to pump out. We never built a pump to pump out the water. We built a pump to put water in. A water. So there's a lot of information that has been kind of not accurate amongst everybody. So I'm going to make sure that we compile all the memos that the PUC and city attorney guided us and others for the last 10, 12 years. And when we sit down, we're going to have the benefit of that. And all of the things that were done in the past, including the lawsuits and the things that were done, because you're relatively new if you've not been here 10 years ago. And I don't want to subject you to, hey, I heard this and I heard that. Let's get all the facts for everybody the same. Then you'll know what has been built and what's that capacity. And then in a 25-year event, what is that capacity going to be challenged with again? Because I think you and your insurance need to know that in order to make some good decisions about whether what we do is going to be an answer or not. And I want to find more correct answers to this. It could very well be that, I'll be candid with you, it could very well be that at the end of this place, maybe we have to buy some properties out in order for you not to be subjected to this. I don't, you know, I have to look at all the options for the city to kind of solve it for people.
Mayor
But
Lee,
I'll do that.
my name is Mark Epstein. I represented a bunch of these property owners in the last event, and I can tell you, and I think a lot of these people here know, that when we were negotiating the final settlement on the diminution in the property values in this neighborhood, the city's representation was we shouldn't have to pay any diminution in property value because we fixed, bless you, we fixed the system. And there was a very detailed negotiation, and I think you'll find, and it's wonderful that you're going to look at all these records because I think they're pretty extensive, but that was the representation from the city is, we fixed this so we really shouldn't have to pay you much for the diminution in the property value. And that's clearly not the case, as everyone is seeing.
Okay. Well, that's why I want everybody to, around the table to have the same level of facts, reports, information, and what was settled, because people make their investments here. I don't want you to be tricked, if you will, or not all of the same facts, so that when we approach a solution, we have a solution that we're all comfortable with. And the solution, it's not going to be easy. I think the solution is going to be expensive for everybody. Let me forewarn you about that. But also, if this is one of our city's citywide obligation, then we're going to also have to approach it as a project that the entire city, if not the district, has to share in that responsibility. I don't like people's homes flooded. I just want to begin with that assertion. I don't want you to be victims every 5 years or every 10 years. That's why we've got to solve it for the long term.
Excuse me, shouldn't Northland be responsible for some of this flooding? They built this freeway here and they dammed off the street.
Very good point. Caltrain, because of the freeway and what they built, we believe, in concert with our city attorney, that they have to be part of the solution, if not part of the responsibility. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. We feel the same way.
We're hearing a number of different things about the claims process now. Excuse me. Some people have gotten responses, some haven't. We're hearing different things about which forms to use. Who can tell us how to move forward with that.
We have the representative of the
This
city
is our
attorney's
city
office here.
attorney's claims division, and he will be saying the same thing to everybody.
Okay.
Exactly. We have claim forms here.
Hi, Remy. I didn't see you.
Can I just, I know we need to work on a long-term solution, but I also just want to make sure that for now, that people are getting what they need, whether it's making sure good information about the claims process for people who are not yet back in their homes, people who need help, and we want to make sure that in the short run we're giving people what they need. This is Andres Power, who's in my office, and I want to just thank Andres for, I know he's worked with a number of neighbors to make sure that people are in touch with the right departments, and we'll continue to play that role. If you're having trouble navigating or getting an answer, please contact my office, contact Andres, and we will do whatever we can to make sure you're being connected to the right people to help.
So everybody should know, the guy in the yellow, he's still working. He's the director of public works. That's Mohammed Nuru. Sandbags, all the kinds of stuff his office will be responsible for. And I want you to know he's on the ground here all the time. Harlan is general manager of the Public Utilities Commission, so he's more responsible for underneath the streets, the sewer system, the engineering of it. So he'll be the point person with his staff. Our city attorney is the claims. Supervisor is got his staff to respond to make sure we do our jobs in the city. So everybody's watching out to make sure all the right things are done. What we need is everybody to make sure you're properly involved in the claims process, getting the support that you get from the city for the cleanup, and then when we notice everyone to kind of start talking through what we need to do in the short term and long term. We'll have everybody's names, emails, addresses, and everybody so that we get together. Again, there are long-term folks that have been here for many years, so you know this routine. We did this before, but there are new folks that need to kind of get into what happened before, what can I learn from others about what my property needs to get done here. We'll work with you on that to get all the same information.
I want to, as challenging as this was, I want to thank DPW and the PSC for a lot of the emergency response. And I know DPW in particular, that they got to the point where you couldn't get more sandbags from manufacturers, and DPW was physically making sandbags itself and delivering them here and in the Mission and other areas where we know that we have chronic flooding problems. So I want to just thank the departments for really stepping up, even though it was, I know, very challenging for everyone.
And Andres Power also helped with that, so we very much appreciate that.
So when the water is 4 feet deep, the sandbag don't help.
I understand.
Or when it's coming up from our sewer line in our basement and it's sewer water.
There's long-term structural problems we have to deal with, but you know, doing whatever we can when the immediate emergencies happen, which we can't. Clearly, it gets overwhelmed quickly.
Yeah. Please just make sure call us if you need sandbags. We have all the streets around here. Our staff know to prioritize this area, and so that's why you're able to get so many. So we're here for you, and any cleanup help that you need, we're here. We brought a packer out a few days ago, and we were able to put stuff in it. Just let us know. We've told staff to prioritize anything that you need here.
So who do we call, 311?
You can just call 311 and we pick up the address, or you can just email me directly. I'll make sure it happens.
Okay, because I couldn't find sandbags. I had to go to Home Depot in Daly City.
But once we see the streets, we have marked the area. We make sure we get them. Yeah.
Mohammed, do you have more sandbags?
Yes, we do.
Can we actually locate a location here to centralize a bunch of sandbags?
I can stage sandbags if you want.
Why don't we do a staging of
And down
sandbags?
there too,
Yes.
because
Yeah,
we get
these two
the
corners.
worst of it over there.
Why don't we do extra sandbags there?
Yeah, we can do that.
See how that lasts.
We can do that. Yeah, like the supervisor said, we were making them all through the night. We held stuff back. We made a couple thousand that way to help people out.
Thank you again for being here this morning. I just want to know, since I've been here pretty much all my life, I grew up here. My grandmother's house is at 33. My parents' house is at 80. I came back from New York last year, and now this happened again. I just want to know what next steps are, as far as when would we have the information available? When can we congregate again? When can we just have some peace of mind that this is being solved and having action move forward, instead of just having Mr. Gavin Newsom from 2004 come in and kind of pretty much say the same thing that y'all have said today.
We can get started right away with the meetings that we have to have and with the documentation. As you heard, I just asked Mr. Kelly to bring forth all of the documents for the last 10 to 12 years, so he'll compile that. And then as we get everybody's information contact, we'll work with our city attorney to set up that, and perhaps we have to find an area of the community. We'll work with Supervisor Wiener on where the most comfortable location for that meeting to happen. Could be our library, or could be community center.
Yep.
And one thing I would ask you is if you could sort of pick a couple delegates to sort of go around and collect everyone's contact information, so emails and addresses, and we'll make sure that as we schedule a meeting that everyone is invited and we can all be at the table.
Yeah, we'll hold a meet as soon as the analysis is done. We'll convene a community meeting. But I want to reiterate what Andre said. It's really hard to get in touch with everyone, and so to the extent we can create some sort of listserv, that'll make it easier.
I'll volunteer right now to help out and collect information, because we'd really like to see some action.
And Mayor, I appreciate your coming out.
We all do.
We all do. And Gavin Newsom came out at about the same time you did, weeks later, when it was cleaned up. So hopefully you have some pictures, or somebody can get you some pictures of the mess of everybody's house that was outside. I mean, that's when we need someone here to see stuff that went out of everybody's houses. I mean, most people down in that block anyway, it's on the block I live in, live downstairs, and they got the most of it. Luckily, I lived upstairs and I just had junk downstairs stuff.
I actually took a video at 3:30 in the morning, Wednesday the 3rd, so I'm happy to circulate that as well.
Let me be a little candid with you. I did get an invitation from both Harlan and Mohammed to come one evening and join them as they went through 3 or 4 feet of water, and I declined that offer.
I called your office.
I had other things that I needed to do.
We were out here that night, and I've been through many floods here, so I know. I've seen pets electrocuted. I've seen things happen. So
But this is an engineering challenge that we have in front of us. An expensive sewer water engineering challenge. Multiple agencies. I want for this community and several others. Now that our city is in I think a fairly strong economic condition, we should be able to solve this a little better with all of you on the long term. So this is what we want. This is the
tired
direction.
of being the forgotten neighborhood.
Yes, definitely.
Scott has done a tremendous job trying to get us unforgotten by helping us with planting, but traffic, the plumbing here, it's horrible. The highway, the water that comes off the highway, they're neighbors that have to jump the greenery to help people in accidents. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you stand here, over there, when there's an accident and people are rushing out of their cars, there should be a wall. There should be something there to protect us.
There's no guardrail.
There's no guardrail. This is the forgotten neighborhood. This is not a bad neighborhood, as some of the people from the city have been calling it.
Broken every night.
We're all taxpayers. We're all both. We all have kids.
Lots of kids in this house.
Lots of kids. The traffic is horrible. That corner is terrible. You cannot believe when you see somebody in an accident on fire coming out of their car. And it's right there. And nobody's doing anything except Scott. And we need you to help Scott.
And you speak of the expense, but surely, Mayor, it's more expensive to recover from damage than it is to prepare for it. If we know that there's going to be a 100-year flood, why prepare for minimal weather? And this is where we live. We can't help it that it's a valley. This is what it is. So surely there's something that we can do long-term, as you say, to prepare for that. That's more cost-effective than having to spend a whole lot more money to clean up the neighborhood.
Well, we're willing to share whatever engineering assessments and estimates that we have. I just need to prepare you that it is going to be expensive, whether it's long-term or responsive, but we're willing to to enter into that with you together, because it is worth it. It's worth it for all the reasons you say.
And the supervisor's thought one that Caltrans has been unbelievably challenging to deal with. They clear cut all the trees that block the freeway, and it took us a year.
You're being very polite about that.
You're being very polite about
I think it took about a year of persistence from Andres just to get them to agree to plant new trees there. I mean, it was very, very, very difficult. So we'll definitely talk about that.
Well, that's why I put Scott on the MTC. He's there to help fight those agencies.
Now,
Okay.
about cars that got damaged, luckily me and my husband both had insurance that have reimbursed us for our cars. But it's not as much as, of course, that we paid for. My husband only had a 3-year-old car. It was gone. And I know there's probably a lot of neighbors in my neighborhood down there that did not have that kind of insurance. Is the city going to reimburse them?
This is where the claims comes in.
So I'll go through the
Yeah.
And we have 2 adjusters that are assigned. Myself, I'm kind of managing the remediation. We were out here day 1.
Are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
We have about 600 pictures of damaged items to address the earlier comment about documenting the damage. We're doing absolutely everything we can. And I can give you my personal cell phone number, as I've done with a number of families here. Anytime, anything you need, any questions. It is a process, and then the Board of Supervisors approves these payments. It's a process.
So what's the turnaround time for a claim to be once it's filed?
It's on an individual basis. We're going to work with you immediately. We typically have 45 days to respond. We always respond before that. In this situation, it's our highest priority.
Mark, how long was it before the last one?
Well, some were never responded to, and they're denied if they're not responded to. We had quite a few last round that were never responded to, so I don't know that that's accurate information.
So then I'm lucky that I got some money.
But my concern is, I'm a Reardon grad. I'm born and raised in the city. Lived here all my life and moved out, come back to San Francisco because it's a great city. When we had the original flooding 3 weeks ago, we didn't even see a pump truck come out and help us. A pump truck showed up at 10 o'clock in the morning Wednesday, cleaned out that gutter and left. What about everybody else in the neighborhood? We got flooded 2 times in 2 weeks, and we saw a pump truck once. When is there going to be responsibility for the taxes we pay? When is there going to be accountability for the money we spend? Sales tax, income tax, property tax. When is that money going to be used to help us in this neighborhood? To help take care of this so it doesn't happen again? I was here for the 2004 flood. My family lives right on the other side of Silver Avenue. We were promised a lot of stuff, but nothing's been done. And this isn't Republican versus Democrat versus anything. This is city money being used to help us in the neighborhood. And it hasn't been done. We've heard promises from 2004 and nothing's been done. It's 2014. 10 years and nothing's been done.
We got a new sewer down there at the end.
Right, but why do I have sewer water over here spewing up in my house when it rains?
And I've seen the pump truck more than once down there.
But it was
Not here.
flooded. It was
Down there.
underwater.
Yeah.
But with the volumes that you're talking of, the Vector truck will not be able to suck all
But
that up.
what about maintenance? What about upkeeping?
Prevention.
What about logistics? I mean, I own a manufacturing plant, and everything to keep my machines running takes time. Money's spent to maintain machines to keep my factory going. Same thing should be done for the city, right?
I hear you, and my only answer is, I think we're going to have to do something a little more deliberate here in this neighborhood, more than your routine maintenance that we do around the city. I think because of this location and its geographical setting, it requires a lot more to be done infrastructurally. This is what we're trying to set the conversation with you all, because it is a lower elevation. It is dealing with that freeway. It is a pond over there. It is the attraction of all the water coming into a lower level. And when you have large storms, this is where it's going to happen. So we have to have an engineering approach to this. I'm just saying it's going to be expensive for all of us, but we're willing to look at and take on the kind of collaborative thing that we need to do to get a solution.
You know, no offense, but just like when we had Gavin Newsom, the whole Beautify San Francisco, they went and hit Silver Avenue, San Bruno Avenue. They hit tax-paying people to make them redo their sidewalk. They painted the sidewalk 2 different colors. Homeowners' responsibility, the city's responsibility. Nothing's been done. I mean, we hear this, but...
Well, I wouldn't say nothing has been done. I would just say not enough has been done for the situation that all of you are here. And that's why I say I'm here. I'm here with Supervisor Wiener. When we put our minds together and decide we're going to do something, we generally get it done. And so we're putting our minds to this with you, and we have to figure it out.
Do you understand that this is a bigger problem than just the sewer?
And it's not flooding. It's the infrastructure
of all this area. That when it starts to rain, the water that comes off the highway, it is unbelievable. We live right there. Our house, thank goodness, did not get flooded.
Because you're a little higher.
We're a little higher, but what comes off that highway and down that street and down this street and over there, it's unbelievable. We stand there in the window, we're like, oh my God. So there's something going on with the highway.
It's like a surface parking lot. When water of
so
that
what
volume
my point to you is, will you commit to doing something with the neighborhood, not just a couple of sewers? This is a bigger problem than just the sewer.
It's an infrastructure.
It's an infrastructure and a grand plan for this whole area that is really falling apart.
Well, I think you're articulating what we're feeling we must do for the entire.
Can we have your word on it?
Yeah. Yes. Mayor? I don't know if we have the solution today.
We will come in and we will work with the community in a very holistic way and look at everything.
You have
As
to work
you know,
with Caltrain. Good luck.
we
If you
work
can
with
make
Caltrain.
that happen,
yeah.
You know, even
everybody here will vote again for all of you. We'll give you the key to the neighborhood.
It's not about votes. I think we need to do the right thing with all of you, and that's why we want to begin these meetings. And by the way, you know, let me inform you. This is just the beginning of the winter, so we may be here with some serious flooding within 2 weeks.
We'll have booths for you.
Okay. So I just want everybody to know that we care about you. We're working together. Let's continue doing this. We'll have the response, but we also need to work on the long-term solution while we're doing all this stuff. Okay. But yes.
And so we will. Andres in my office will continue to work with neighbors and work with the mayor's office and make sure we're moving forward with this analysis, and then ultimately convening a community meeting. I don't want to say the exact timetable. We want to make sure we have full information before we do that, but hopefully in the next several months we'd be able to do that and to have that start moving towards a longer term plan.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Can you make sure you have people here who speak Spanish? There's a couple of families here. There's a woman, older woman with her disabled husband at the last house on this street. No one's even talked to them. She's just told me she cleaned everything herself. She had to leave because her husband is in a wheelchair. No one's done anything for her. The folks who used to live here also speak Spanish only, so they've been asking me because I can translate. But there's this meeting and future meetings. The department folks need to know that they need to have people that speak Spanish.
That's an important point. Thank you.
Thank you.
And not only Spanish, there's a lot of Asian people.
We'll have bilingual speakers.
Okay. We'll have bilingual staff here to do that.
I know this area has a creek that runs under it.
This is great. Yes.
Yeah, and also down there by 17th and in the Mission, there's was a lake
Mission
there.
Creek.
Mission Creek.
And those are the ones that get hit a lot. I know there's a few others because I've seen it.
Wawona. It's not a
Oh,
creek,
to
but
Wawona too?
Wawona, I mean, they...
Yeah, I heard that.
And they get flooded too?
Sliding
Over there?
Got red tag.
That combined with yeah, the rainwater.
Yeah, I was a little girl when my house that I have now was my grandmother's house, and she got flooded. So that was over. It wasn't 100 years ago. I was a little girl, but I would say it was over 50 years ago. I'm not gonna go any further than that. So it was at least 50 years ago, or a little more. And I remember my dad and grandfather being over there, throwing out mud, taking out the drywall. And for me as a little girl, that was fun because I had my rain boots on and I was washing around in the water. It's not fun.
Mr. Mayor, you talked about forums, you talked about town meetings and so forth. The question is, are you going to form some kind of a task force yourself that is going to focus specifically on this problem? Or is it going to be in addition to the normal jobs that you guys have to do every day?
No, this has to be a solution-oriented team of people that has our city's engineers, our water and sewer leaders, our public works infrastructure people, and our 10-year capital plan people, to be quite honest with you, because I think it's going to be at a level that we have to talk fiscally what we're going to be able to do in different phases in order to reach the ultimate solution. Because you got all this combination of things that everybody has talked about today that challenges the entire area, and infrastructure is never one thing. And so we have to come with a solution that meets all of these challenges. And so it is an infrastructure challenge, in my opinion, and it's one that we have to put aside some serious resources to do.
I'd like to suggest then, to follow up on that you develop some kind of a timeline with this task force. You submit that to the people in this area or to the public forum, you know, the representatives of the people. They can then distribute to the other people so that people get an idea of when they can expect something to happen.
Agreed. I agree with that approach. And that's why I want you to be working with us, why we put together the technical team to give you give all of us the advice. And then Supervisor Wiener and I and fiscal people in the city, along with the legal people, will all be proposing how we go forward on the different phases and how we will fund it.
And Team Lead should be contacting whoever the leaders of the...
Exactly.
Whoever that is.
Yes,
Here, the fiscal piece is a really interesting part, so I'm sure the budget for the city is really difficult. Is there money set aside for kind of emergency infrastructure, things like that? Or are you going to have to go to the city council and ask them for net new funds or moving money around? How difficult is that, do you think that would be?
Good question. The question was, you know, fiscally, how do we get these kinds of funds focused and dedicated? Well, one, this is an emergency, so I think we will tap those sources, and we do have emergency funds. Two, because they're capital infrastructure, having been the former public works director and city administrator, I know how to identify funds and set them aside, and I will do that with our controller and our board of supervisors support for areas. So you're not the only area of the city. We will probably identify the 3 or 4 most impacted areas of the city and say that we've got to find some infrastructure solutions. So we'll have the conversation with the board that when we come to our capital infrastructure planning, which is fiscal, we will have money set aside to target those areas of the city.
And we in the budget process, we allocate, I mean, there's long-term bond capital money, but we allocate from our general fund capital funds each year, and Mayor Lee has been very good about increasing the investment from the general fund into basic infrastructure needs, and we've been very supportive of that.
Great.
Just another question, since we talk about funds and, you know, going forward with this. Last year when our streets were cut up for PG&E to do work, how come the left hand didn't talk to the right hand and we tried to do all this upgrading while the streets were dug up last year, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago? It would have made sense when all of our streets along this block were cut up, dug up, pipes are being changed for the gas mains. Why wouldn't there have been some type of interagency talking with other agencies, and actually why the ground was open, coming in and changing the sewer lines.
The way that's supposed to work is when anyone goes in to do work, whether it's PG&E or water department or sewer department, give notice to everyone to say, you know, come now and do this. Otherwise, there's a 5-year moratorium except for emergencies on digging. And so I don't know exactly what happened here, but typically if PG&E comes in to do the gas work, the PUC will come in after that and do the sewer replacement work and the water main replacement. I don't know what happens here.
All the agencies meet on a very regular basis to go over plans for the next 5 years where projects are happening and take opportunities to coordinate work. There's a lot of coordination that goes in. At the end of the day is, do we have enough resources to get all the things that we need to get done?
It should have been handled better. I mean, I come from a construction background too. In construction, we coordinate with other groups, with other companies to handle stuff. It doesn't make sense to dig a hole, fix one thing, backfill it, pave the street, and then come in and say, oh, we need to allocate a budget, we need to allocate this, we need to find a 10-year plan to come in and redig the streets up. It makes sense. Once the streets are open, it should have been done.
Well, I think we're kind of saying we didn't have a plan for this area to meet these particular flooding situations.
There was a 2008 report that said this was
I think people thought at the time they had that solution, and it was, you know, and apparently that was not enough. That's what I'm saying. We have to do more here. What we haven't done is enough.
Also, we had half-paved streets. I had a PG&E man say we're only responsible for repaving the side of the street that we dug up. If the city would let us, we could pave the whole thing, but they won't do that.
That's not.
I would love them to say that to me, sir.
They said that that's not accurate. When they may not be required to do the whole thing, but to suggest that PG&E is jumping at the chance of doing it is not true. If we don't force them to do it, they won't do it. I think we should force them to do it, but that's just me.
By the way, when we do have our meetings, we will get other agency reps there, and we'll document that, PG&E as well as Caltrain. Are we wet enough?
I have one thing to say.
Yes.
You guys have dealt with some of us really nicely and totally ignored some other people.
Okay.
Down at the end of the block, they didn't get as much help as we got.
Okay.
And I don't see why.
We'll focus on that.
We will. And can I just say that if anyone is not getting the help they need, please contact my office, Andres, to let us know, because we try to really jump and make sure that people who are maybe falling through the cracks get brought back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody, we'll follow up with this. Just happy holidays, and we'll be out here trying to do what we can, but we'll set those meetings up as soon as the documents are together.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for working.